There's a memorable story in Acts 20 of a worship gathering in a place called Troas. The believers are gathered together on the first day of the week, hearing from the Apostle Paul. And a young man named Eutychus starts to fall asleep. He's sitting by a window, and when he falls asleep, he falls out the window, some 3 stories down. Luke said he was taken up as dead. But Paul picks up Eutychus and says, "Do not be alarmed, for his life is in him." And Eutychus comes back to life. Gathering together for worship is a big deal. It's a foretaste of the future gathering of all of God's redeemed people, giving praise to the Lamb. And when we meet together for worship, we never know what might happen. But you don't have to have some extraordinary experience like a young man being raised to life in order to justify making Sunday gatherings a regular part of your life. You see, your habits shape your life, and assembling weekly with your church is a good habit. In fact, it's actually dangerous for you not to. Hebrews 10:24-25 tells us that we need to meet together in order to encourage one another and stir one another up to love and good works. There are 3 significant aspects of corporate worship I want you to consider, 3 ways in which it nourishes our souls and strengthens our faith. First, listening to God's Word. Luke tells us that Paul spoke to the church in Troas until daybreak. That's how much the saints wanted to hear his teaching. And today we still gather weekly to hear God's Word preached. We should be listening carefully to each sermon, because if the preacher is truly saying what God has said in His Word, then he's bringing you something authoritative and life-changing. Secondly, sharing the family meal. In Troas, the believers gathered together to break bread. This was the Lord's Supper, the meal by which we remember Jesus' sacrifice and His kingdom. The meal in which we get to see the gospel, ponder God's provision, taste Jesus' forgiveness, and look forward to the day in which sin and sorrow are no more. It is such a privilege to enjoy this table with other believers. Third, singing and praying. Singing has always been an important aspect of the worship of God's people. It's what the liberated people of God do, sing, and sing joyfully of grace. Singing God's praises is good for the heart. And although we're singing to God, we are also singing to one another. The truths that we're singing about build us up and build up those around us. Singing has a way of unifying us. Prayer, like singing, also fills the pages of Scriptures. One of the great joys of meeting together is praying together. Our prayers show our dependency on God. They also lift our eyes to the church's mission around the globe, which is another thing God uses to unite His church as one body. It is not only right to prioritize meeting with your local church, it is good and exciting to do so. In your discussion time, you're going to look at Hebrews 12, which is a wonderful picture of what our gatherings now are looking forward to. So why don't you take some time to pray before you start your discussion.